Okay, everybody, welcome back. It's In Progress, our weekly roundtable discussion of the political stories and issues and ideas that are top of mind for progressive folks across the Lone Star State. This week, my name is Chris Mosier. I'm the Communications Director here at Progress, Texas. Welcome if you're hearing us on the radio, KPFT FM 90.1. Progress, Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions, and we operate a major digital network, including social media, podcasts, legacy media contributions, and more, reaching millions of people all across Texas all the time. This week, joined by Advocacy and Development Coordinator Tatum Owens. Hi, Tatum.
That's me. Howdy, y'all.
We also have Digital Manager Haley Smith. Hi, Haley.
Hello, hello. Happy to be here.
We also have the person who really makes all of this happen. Honestly, none of it would happen without our Executive Director, Kathleen Thompson. Hi, KT.
Hey, y'all.
And we've been through a major, activity week with a bunch of our closest partners and whatnot, and we are all completely exhausted.
So tired.
Which is interesting because this happens, leading into a week that will also leave us completely exhausted, which is the upcoming Texas Democratic Convention in Corpus Christi, which is happening. As you're listening to this, it'll be starting the following Friday or Thursday.
It's Gavelin Friday, but the STEC meets on Thursday, and there are other meetings happening Thursday as well. So
Okay.
The convention is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but the official Gavelin won't happen till Friday.
We are, this is actually real cool. I think of these things, there's a lot of business that goes on, and we'll talk about that. I think of these things as almost like it's fun because, I focus on politics just as my fun. That's how I have my fun. And that's what, drives a lot of people crazy, I'm sure. But this is like a moment where all of the Texas politics on the progressive side all comes together. The organizations and the lawmakers and the candidates and the advocates and the experts and all these people all kind of pile in together. It's chaotic and it's a total blast. My first one that I attended was last year in El Paso. So I'm really looking forward to this. We are super proud to be the official media partner of the Texas Democratic Convention this year, which is real cool. Tatum, real quick, kick to you. How does that make you feel? And what does that mean? What are we going to be doing as that official media partner?
Yeah. Well, first thing that I'll say is thank you to our listeners who have helped us get to this level where we're able to partner with the State Democratic Party. This is the largest Democratic convention in the country. So we're super proud to be able to help demonstrate the coalition of people meeting from across the state happening so soon and in numbers at that. And in addition, being able to achieve our mission of amplifying progressive values, leaders, and actions across the board. Something we did last time was we interviewed tons of people. This was Haley and me walking across the convention with a little boom mic.
Yeah.
And we also interviewed James Talarico, of all people, who, of course, is national attention grabbing Democratic Senate candidate now. So how I feel is super good. That's really exciting. I'm also so tired, as we've stated, but that's just the state of Texas politics and anybody who is somewhat aligned or involved in them, and we are deeply embedded in it, and for better or worse.
Yeah, so this is also last convention was my first convention too, Chris, and the people that I talked to and the people that I met it was an insane time. It was nothing like I had ever expected, and it was a whole lot of fun, and I'm really excited to go back and be the official media partner. And we also have this really cool party for anybody that's looking to attend. It's with the Texas Progressive Caucus, and we're going to be having a whole bunch of people coming up and talking about what they're doing. We're going to have candidates come up and speak, and we're going to do what we do best, which is, like Tatum said, amplify progressive values, leaders, and actions. And it's going to be at the Goldfish on Thursday from 6 to 8. So if you're there, stop by. Come say hi. We'll be there.
And that, to be clear, I'm pretty sure that's free. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's free.
Free. Free to attend.
I also think there might possibly be, one wet of the whistle, one complimentary beverage for everybody who comes walking in there.
First drinks covered.
So that's real nice. I recall the pre-party, and I'm going to say any names. The pre-party last year before El Paso got going, there was a little drama that went down at that thing. And drama is kind of the name of the game of this deal, and we'll get to that. But Kathleen, give us your impressions, especially as our executive director, on this official tie to the, we are a technically nonpartisan organization,
Absolutely.
by the way. We're not officially affiliated with the Democratic Party of Texas outside of doing this media partnership. To me, it's about maximizing the access and really getting the word out about what happens next week in Corpus.
Yeah, I've been attending Democratic conventions since I can't remember when I didn't attend. And I've taken like every baby that I've had to conventions and had little kids in tow and in strollers. And I remember the 2018 was particularly hard when I was pregnant and like could barely get around. It was late in the summer and I had a August delivery day. Whew. I feel for you ladies who are attending convention pregnant this year. But it is such a great experience to attend convention. And that's why I'm so excited that we're the official media partner, because we're uniquely qualified to take what happens at convention back across the state for people who can't attend for whatever reason. You have to work, you have to take care of kiddos, you have to take care of your parents. It's not in the budget this extremely difficult year. Gas prices are through the roof. I heard an interview with a gentleman who was saying like he can't even fill up his truck because the gas meter stops at 100 and it costs more than $100 to fill up his gas tank. So whatever the reason is, if you can't make it, we want to bring the convention to you. So just like we did for the March Harris County Democratic Convention when we were the official media partner, we take candidate and elected officials' remarks, clip them for short form media. We sweeten the audio, we keyframe it, we caption it, and deliver it right to your smartphones and computers. And take an event that is about 1,000 people and deliver it to 600,000 people across Texas, which is remarkable. And we're going to do the same thing in Corpus. So I hope if whatever reason you haven't followed us on all the socials that you're on, make sure you do so that you can both see what's happening if you're attending and be a part of it and don't miss out on anything. But especially if you're listening and you know you can't make it, be following along there too.
So for whatever reason you're showing up, don't feel like you are unwelcome to come up and talk to us. We would love to meet every single one of you. If you're listening to this podcast, we want to meet you in Corpus Christi, whether that's at the Goldfish the night before or at the event itself. We're going to be set up, with our bump and jams and whatnot at the vendor area. I don't even know what they call that, but where everybody's hanging out.
Hall.
And so please do come see us. There are many opportunities, not only for you politician types and for you activist types, but also just for you regular people to come and be part of what we do. There are many opportunities in our podcast stuff for just our regular listeners to be a part of what we do. So we are totally down to talk to you and meet you. We'd love to see you and record your voice and, and your pretty face as well. So please do come by and see us. So with the Democratic convention coming up next week in Corpus Christi, Texas, there has also been brand new news of the Republican convention that just went down a few days ago, last weekend in Houston. And there are a broad variety of things that happen at both of these conventions from kind of a technical standpoint that's kind of party business. I think Kathleen's probably the best expert that we have on party business as it applies to both of the parties. What do each of these parties, Kathleen, over the course of their conventions seek to accomplish leading into the election?
So for months now, since the congressional district conventions or county conventions, depending on how it was held in your region, committees have been meeting about the rules, the platform, and all that work is going to culminate this coming weekend in Corpus to establish the party platform, which is a written document that says who the Texas Democrats are, what they believe in, what their values are, and the kind of Texas that they all strive to live in. Of course, the Republicans just did that at their convention as well. The convention also is critically important because it elects the party officers. We are just months away from a existential election.
Yes.
And we have good people running from the top to the bottom of your November ticket. And the future of the Texas Democratic Party will be decided by the delegates who attend. So if you are not attending, please reach out to your SDEC members, reach out to friends that you know who are delegates and let them know how you'd be voting if you could attend. And then those party officers will be determined for a full term. Right now, Kendall Scudder is the party chair because he filled a vacancy left when Gilberto Hinojosa resigned, and he was elected on the first round ballot of the SDEC's election. So right now, we're coming up to a party officers election. Multiple party offices will be filled. There are 3 people running for chair, and somebody's going to win that and then decide the future of the party in the next few months in a make or break election cycle.
It's interesting that all this happens right on the eve of an election. There's a potential for a change of the guard, which leads me to let's do at least a little bit of a brief recap of what happened in Houston with the Republicans. And believe me, there was a lot to talk about. Pause, edit. Tatum and Haley, are y'all both well versed enough in the stuff that happened at the convention just to bounce it a little bit? Okay, Haley, you good with that? Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm going to Haley first. Here we go. So to Haley, what were your favorites of the greatest hits of the 2026 Texas Republican Convention?
I wouldn't call any of it greatest hits.
Worst hits.
But yeah, I mean, the elephant peeing on everybody was kind of the cherry on top, right? I mean, we've all seen that. And side note, this is something I saw on Twitter, so unverified, we can verify this. The company or the group or whatever that they got the elephant from has animal abuse allegations.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that.
It's like, yeah, it couldn't get any more meta until it does.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in.
The elephant, of course, the symbol of the Republican Party, and elephants being highly intelligent, highly emotive and emotional, and both maternalistic and paternalistic sort of creatures. They are, a high level of life form on our planet that should not be abused in this way, my humble opinion. But I digress. Go ahead, Haley. What else did you see there?
Just looking at the general list of their platform, the thing that stands out to me is that not only are they so negative culturally, they're in policy, they're negative. I don't see anything on here that's about giving anybody anything or making anybody's life better.
Right.
It's just about prohibiting things and banning things and making life generally more difficult for just about everybody.
Even in this is not on the platform, but yeah, just going back to what you said about the animal cruelty allegations, this business has been run for a couple of decades, and the person that they rented this elephant from, it's like one of the few remaining elephant rental companies, because so often you come across animal abuse violations, but also they've risked human health too. And so I think that it just feels very emblematic of this platform, which puts people at risk instead of providing public goods, right? So Haley, I love that point from you.
Absolutely. And thank you for going in and checking that. You're like a live fact checker.
Yeah.
Wow.
Taylor's real fast on the Googles for sure.
I try. On the Googles, yes, I do.
KT, what did you see in Houston that you were interested in?
I was really sorry to hear. I mean, you go in with low expectations, but I was sorry to hear and read of the Texas Tribune reporting about the handful of Texas Muslims who wanted to go and participate in the party that they chose. I can't say why a Muslim person would want to be a member of the Republican Party, or why a woman would want to be a member of a party that's trying to take away her bodily autonomy and her right to vote. But we have free will right now still.
Yes.
And we can choose our party affiliation still. So I was really heartbroken to see that people were told that they don't belong and they shouldn't be there, but maybe it's better to have it out in the open than have an undercurrent. And I was really struck by some of the very scary public policy decisions that they have in their party platform. And I know we're going to talk about some of those points, but I think it's really important that people understand what they're saying they believe in. And when you're at your family barbecue coming up for Father's Day or the 4th of July, Independence Day, I really ask that you talk to your family members about what Republicans just said that they support, and ask your family members, do you support that? Because if you don't, there's a place for you. That doesn't mean you're a Democrat. That doesn't mean you're giving up your community or your values. But just be really sure that you know what you're voting for when you vote for Republicans on the ballot. And I love to get into some of those public policy platforms. They're really scary. So where to begin? Chris enumerated several for us, but I have a really hard time with the number 10 on Chris's list about the prohibition of public health mandates.
Right.
My hometown of Colleyville did not comply with the governor's lockdown order that happened during COVID, because they said that COVID was a Democratic hoax, because Donald Trump said that COVID was a Democratic hoax. and people started dropping like flies, like
Right.
assistant principal dead, family man, coach, area pastor dead, school board trustees husband dead. It really matters when you say, I'm not going to trust public health experts. I know better. I unfortunately was in some mom groups that somebody posted saying, like, we have substantial community spread in our area. And a mom, I don't even know who she was, said, well, I disagree with that.
Mean.
Okay.
It can make you uncomfortable, but you can't deny the reality of the situation.
Your opinion does not carry the same weight as a emergency public health expert. It just doesn't.
That's the basic part of all this that I was going to point out, is that there is a wide swath of our society that has forgotten the difference or has been taught to conflate opinion and fact, that my opinion's as good as your opinion is. And that's true. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. It doesn't mean that your opinion is right or factually correct or scientifically sound. And that's a distinction that a lot of people have failed to make. And that's exactly what we're talking about there. Let me read this. Under the banner of medical freedom, this is from the Republican platform, the Texas Republican Convention. Under the banner of medical freedom, the platform outlines an absolute ban on vaccine mandates, tracking, or status discrimination by both public entities and private businesses, which means that in your private business that you own, your flower shop on Main Street, you can't stop someone from walking in there without a mask during a pandemic situation like we just experienced during COVID. This guarantees an individual's right to withhold consent for any vaccine or medical treatment without coercion. I mean, this is a full denial of just the basic science of how we know pathogens and pandemics work. We know that these things happen. We know they exist in the world. This is just a complete dispensation of science in the name of ignorant personal freedom, frankly.
Right.
And that is part of that's just like Kathleen said, when you're at the picnic and you're talking to someone who says they're going to vote Republican, that is what they're voting for. That's, in writing.
I'll say out of this list that we chose, it's interesting that kind of across the board, you still find that a lot of these different platform points boil down to public health concerns, whether you're talking about humanitarian aid or abortion restrictions, or of course, like vaccine tracking and mandating. If I can just offer, I was in Houston this weekend, and it's wild to me. I knew that the convention was happening, but there was no trace of it. You had the World Cup happening at the same time, which I think stands as maybe a direct opposition to the values put forward by the Republican convention, right? Like, you have globalism at the front of this. You have people inviting in people from all around the world to Houston, Texas, being so excited by Waffle House and the like, And so I think that it's so funny and so endearing to see people be human in some of the best ways, and then you see targeted rhetoric against Islamist extremism. You see public education being restricted. Like, some of these are just truly, it feels inhuman in contrast.
Right.
I'll talk a little bit about the first point that Chris pulled for us, which is corporate penalties for abortion travel funding, and just offer, this is one of the platform points that they put forward. You also have the Senate State Affairs hearing happening next week on June 23rd is going to be covering the same issue in terms of abortion travel restrictions. This has been something that, going back several legislative sessions, has been targeted. And I think the last thing I have to offer here, Kathleen, you mentioned the importance of talking to family members about these policy points, sure, but also the Republican platform overall. I did do that a couple of years ago, back in 2024, prior to the election, with my Republican grandfather and the rest of our family at the table. And they could not believe some of the points, especially regarding abortion, that were on that platform. These are people who have voted Republican their whole lives, and we left that table saying, I can't believe it, and I need to make a change. There was also some fights. It was high, intense conversations with some shouting, but once we came back together and you're reminded these are the human we care about each other, and that's what matters. I remember my dad kind of was like, I don't know why we're all fighting right now. We all think the same thing. And that this is insane. But you don't find that out if you don't ask. You know what I mean? And that's so true for so many people listening right now. We all have Republican family members and friends, perhaps, too, out there, and sad to see that they've become more common policy points on the platform.
Let me say a little bit more about the corporate penalties for abortion travel funding,
Sure.
just so folks know what we're talking about. So this calls for strict prohibitions and penalties on private entities, corporations, and organizations that fund or facilitate interstate travel for employees seeking elective abortions. So this means you work for a company that has their corporate offices wherever outside of the border of Texas, but you live in Texas and you're a remote employee. You live in Austin, Dallas, Lubbock, Abilene, wherever you live, and you want and need abortion care. So your corporation helps pay for your abortion care as your medical care. You have insurance through them. So Republicans fought all the way up to the Supreme Court with Hobby Lobby, saying, as a corporation, as a private entity, we feel that it's our sincerely held belief that we don't want to pay for birth control.
Yeah, contraception.
We don't have a problem with like Viagra for men, but we don't want to pay for birth control for women. And it's our sincerely held belief. So we're going to take this all the way up to the Supreme Court. And Republicans support that. So why don't Republicans support private corporations making decisions about healthcare in this way?
Right.
It's because it's not about private decisions. It's not about corporations. It's about controlling women's bodies and controlling the bodies of people who can become pregnant, period.
Right.
Going back to the restrictions and the medical freedom from earlier, how can they say the words medical freedom and restrict abortion travel and IVF in the same platform?
Right.
I know calling out
Exactly.
Republican hypocrisy in year 10 of Trump is not really helpful anymore, but it boggles my mind how they can put this all together and really think that they're protecting or helping anyone.
Right. We've talked a whole bunch lately, and this goes back to the convention, and actually something that that has been really, really well publicized and kind of shocking about the Republican convention this time around, in relation to kind of the Christianization of politics that we're seeing on the right, in spite of the fact that a lot of what they want to do is in direct contradiction to everything that Jesus Christ ever said that he wanted his followers to do. In particular was, the embrace of the other, which the way Jesus put it was your neighbor. And that, of course, becomes the definitive factor determining who your neighbor is. Well, Jesus' answer to that was the Good Samaritan, who at that time for his people, where he was born and raised, were the enemy very much. And so his point was through that parable that everyone is your neighbor, especially the people with whom you disagree, especially the people with whom you have a conflict. Those are your neighbors, and those are the ones that you're supposed to love. And so interesting that, this party that holds Christianity supposedly, above all, is targeting literally people of other religions by literally kicking out members, delegates, people who were there through their own choice.
Right.
Whether that's, I don't know, whether it's perhaps they agree on reproductive freedom, perhaps they agree on fiscal policy, perhaps they agree on any number of these other, items that we have, that we talk about in politics. These people happen to be of the Muslim faith, happen to consider themselves Republicans ideologically for whatever reasons. They show up at the Republican convention. And here's another thing I don't quite understand. Outside of their race, outside of that, they happen to be, either of, Arabic sort of appearance, non-white basically, would really be the only way that the people on these stages at the Texas Republican Convention would have to single them out as Muslim people to begin with. So what we're really talking about is race. Right. We're talking about race and religion at the same time. So for the first time, this is coming from the platform synopsis here. For the first time, the 2026 platform process integrated explicit anti-Islamist language following momentum from GOP primary campaigns, popularized at the convention under the banner, "Don't Sharia My Texas." And let's be super clear. These people were asked to leave. These people were, I don't know if they were formally escorted out by security. I'm not sure if that happened, but they were told by people talking from the stages, including outgoing Republican Party Chair Abraham George, "We don't want you here. You'd really be better off with the Democrats in Corpus Christi." Even some going so far as to say, well, you could convert to Christianity and then we wouldn't have a problem. Saying this kind of open language, in a public setting, in a formalized, policy setting, this is the type of language that's being used in that place. And it's just, is it only me that still finds this completely just mind blowing that this is happening out loud?
No, it's not. I do too. It's like The fact that Sharia law is something that is seriously discussed and engaged with in the state of Texas, in the United States of America. Guys, come to Jesus moment. Sharia law is not coming to Texas.
Yeah.
Right? And it's mind-boggling. Beside the racism and horrible Islamophobia aside, like, I just do not understand this talking point. Genuinely, I don't.
It's their year. It's the year for Muslims to be the Republican Party's boogeyman.
Right.
In years past, it's gay marriage. In years past, it was Dan Patrick like passing out signs that look like picket fences, saying like there's a brown invasion coming from the southern border, right? So it's just their year to be picked on, because if you fearmonger and you talk about how other people are trying to harm you, then you can't see that Republican policies have their hand in your pocket, stealing from you and your family. And it's really about look over there. And I just want to say, Chris, the parable of the Good Samaritan is my favorite.
Sure.
Parable of the Bible. So to hear you and the Reverend Bim, Richard Bim, talking about that early on the podcast, and then today, it just warms my little Sunday school heart to hear you all talking about that, because really that shapes my life. And that's one of the reasons that I grew up in a Republican household and I'm not a member of the Republican Party, because what I grew up with has absolutely nothing to do with the Republican MAGA or Tea Party of today nationally, or the Texas Republican Party. I was taught that everyone is my neighbor and I have to care about everybody, and the least of these, and people that I'll never meet. And that's why I'm a progressive.
One other thing that happened this last weekend was the Women's Leadership Summit. We reported on this back in maybe early May or April, I forget, because the Erica Kirk of it all.
Right.
So this was a convention that was put on by Turning Point USA, very much hand in hand with what you would expect from the Republican National Convention. But this was it
felt very much like a women's parallel event. Now, the convention,
Yes.
The Republican convention in Houston was not men only, don't get me wrong. But the fact that this event targeting women in particular was happening just down the road in San Antonio at the very same time, I mean, the parallel is not lost on me for sure.
At all. And so off the note of talking about what one of the speakers at the event was Riley Gaines. This is, of course, if you're unaware, the Olympic loser. Yeah, exactly. She is a transphobic person who is, I would say, a grifter who makes her living off of transphobic talking points, and got into the Republican speaking circuit off of that, and not off of her Olympic achievements, sadly, for her. So she was a speaker at this event, and the video is populating around the internet right now. It's circling the internet. And you have her, I don't know where it came from, talking to the person behind the camera, asking her for her sincere beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
So what are the pillars that I'm supposed to believe in again? I've been interested to see the reporting coming out of the Women's Leadership Summit. I almost wanted to be there, if that makes sense. Like, it's such an interesting pool of people, and the way that they talk about women and what women in Texas should be pursuing. Just really interesting to me.
Well, everybody wants to sit and watch a house burn down. You know, that's always fun to do. I did want to, something that's taken out of that same event, and we've kind of diverged a little bit from the conventions, but this is kind of the same thing. It was happening at the same time. Was the very open, very vocal position staked by multiple people at this convention, and I'm in a room full of women. I'm going to say this out loud, that women should sacrifice their right to vote. That simple. That women should not be allowed to vote, that voting should be based on households, and households should be governed by husbands. This is policy that this group is putting out in an organized fashion. Turning Point USA is closely associated with the Trump administration, closely associated with the National Republican Party. This is not some fringe, crazy, bunch of people in a tent somewhere. This is a fully organized, very well-funded event that is put on by people who have been put into positions of authority to speak on these matters, who all the women in this room and all the women in our audience are themselves offering up their own right to vote on behalf of all women in America. That's true.
It's mind-bending in the year 2026 that after 100 years of women's suffrage, that there are women who make money by saying that other women shouldn't have the right to vote, and saying, to me, honestly, gross things, saying like my husband is head of the household. I mean, I don't want to live like that. And if you choose to live like that, you do you, but don't come for public policy that says that women have to give up their right to vote and their right to vote the best interests of their children and their families. I know so many split households. At one of the houses that we lived in Tarrant County, it was always fun at election time to see the couple at the end of the street. One sign would come up for 1 week and they take it down, and then they put up the opposing candidate, and then that would be up for a week, and then they take it down. And that was just the agreement that they're going to espouse their candidate and take turns. But there wasn't a man there saying, you know what, I know what's best for you, dear. Let me pat you on the head, and you need to vote the way that I vote. During the 2024 elections, there was a lot of buzz about the commercials saying your vote is private, your vote is private, and it was targeting Republican women who don't want to vote for a sexual abuser. And the chaos and corruption that we all knew was coming, most of us knew was coming again. And it's just really heartbreaking that there are people advocating for me to lose my my vote and my power, and my daughter, because she's born a girl, to lose her vote and her power. We should decide who we want to vote. It's one person, one vote right now, and that's the way it should be. And it was hard fought, and that's not something I'm willing to give up.
I think it was CNN that interviewed some of Nick Fuentes's fan base, the Groypers. There was two guys that CNN interviewed asking, Nick Fuentes puts forward this talking point a lot. He jokes, you say, that women should lose the right to vote. And both of them just danced around the talking point that it's not a joke. He obviously means that. And so I think it's very naive. Even if some of the women in that room say it and don't believe it, like putting it out into the public consciousness makes it possible for Republicans to put forward that into policy. And that is a very dangerous path that you're paving right there.
Specifically with just like laughing our way into losing our rights, I think is just a common theme for the last 10 years. And nobody takes Trump seriously until they do. And you're right, Kathleen, the road to women's suffrage and women's rights is so hard fought. And we still have a very long road ahead of us. And we all remember when Roe was overturned. Anything is possible. And I think we all need to be aware and on the defense of our own rights, which is crazy to say, but it needs to happen, because you're right. I will not give this up.
Well, as a man who works in an organization full of badass women, and who is married to a badass woman, and who has a badass daughter, none of whom are going to put up with one single ounce of this garbage. Haley's right. We should take it seriously, but you can also kind of look at this as just the degree of poppycock that has begun to come out of the political opposition. And the fact that we're sitting here talking about it on a podcast and on the radio is a little bit of a win for them. I almost feel like we're giving ridiculousness, oxygen that it doesn't deserve. But we do need to be, at this point, especially leading into an election, really looking seriously and with wide open eyes about what each of these two parties is into. We've kind of spent the entire time talking about what the Republicans did in Houston last week, and we're just about out of time. By this time next week, we will be heading into Corpus Christi to go and do the convention itself. So probably some more talk about it on the next episode of In Progress, but we'll see what happens with that. And then, of course, the following week after that, we'll have tons of stuff to talk about what happened. There's absolutely going to be some drama going down. These occasions are built. We talked about this actually at the county convention level. These things are built on conflict. These things are all about all the people in this great big tent coming together and hammering out their differences. And sometimes that hammering gets a little bit passionate and loud. And so we'll see what happens at this thing. By the way, one last thing I'll say about the Republican convention was that they were preaching unity. They were talking about unity, unity, unity. They did nothing of the sort. They fought back and forth between themselves. They ousted their chair. There was all sorts of stuff that happened. They are not coming out of that convention with anything even close to unity. I am personally hoping that the Democrats can do a better job on that front.
Their unity version is you half of women shut up and then
all you Muslim people get out.
And then you others get out.
Yeah. I mean, let me be really bold here and just surmise that your average run-of-the-mill Republican official, white, straight male, older, your textbook Republican official, if you're a woman, if you're a Muslim, if you're gay, if you're black, if you're Hispanic, if you are anything outside of a straight Christian right male, in their heart of hearts, they don't want to hear from you. They are really into it for their own control. And I know I'm painting with a broad brush. I'm sure some of them are very fine people, as we've heard someone else say. But at the same time, generally the platform is really about the old guard patriarchal control. You would think that they would have evolved a little bit by this point, but they clearly have not. Anything else before we close, guys?
Yes. Happy Father's Day, Chris.
Oh, why, thank you.
Happy Father's Day to all the daddies out there who are loving their daughters just as much as they love their sons.
Hell yeah.
And who are working every day to make a better, safer, healthier, more prosperous Texas for us all.
I'm hoping for lavish gifts and perhaps even some really nice whiskey or something. We'll see what happens. Thank you for that, Kathleen. Progress Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. Radio listeners, if you missed any of our show on Thursday, you're in luck because it's going to run again on Sunday and every weekend on KPFT Radio HD2 channel, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. More info on the radio station at kpft.org. Thanks to all y'all, and more info on us at progresstexas.org.